number. They know how to get a restraining order. They know how to hide from them for 18 years. But somehow he couldn't get away from this woman, and he was forced to punch her in the face and knock her out. That's the argument that some of these guys will make. And I'm like, come on. He plays football. Let's not stick up for the guy.
Yeah, and this is, you talk about a recurring problem with substance abuse and marijuana and whatever it may be. This isn't the first football player to beat up his girlfriend.
No, it's getting worse. That's
this is going on for years and years and years. So this is as much, I would argue, as much an issue as certainly marijuana use. I think, like you said, marijuana, I don't want to open up that can of worms on that debate, but there's a difference between using marijuana and cocaine. So there's a very big difference there in the on the spectrum of drug use, but there really isn't in terms of beating up women and raping women. I mean, that's pretty much that's a center point issue. I mean, there's not much wiggle room. That is one crime is equal to all other crimes. So this is incredibly bad timing. Not to say that to say the least of which that I'm sure I don't even know if Browns fans have tuned into the fact that. To twist the knife even further, Ray Rice is suspended for 2 games. First game back against the Browns.
Against the Browns, of course. Yeah. But I don't know what you're talking about. The NFL loves women. They do a whole month where they make us see everything in pink, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that'll go over really well this year. Yeah. We support women in their fight with breast cancer, but not in their fight against our players.
Did you see the day, it just coincidentally happened, the day that they announced his 2-game suspension, they also updated the merchandise shop on the website, and they had his pink Ray Rice pink women's jersey added to it, and I'm like,
sure by now it's got to be sold out by now.
I'm like, how ironically unreal is that you've got such a contrast there? And for those of you, and I saw Bruce in the chat room, he said, "Well, Josh Gordon failed 4 times," and I agree with that. But
that's a fair point. I mean, we don't want to ignore that. Yeah.
Let me throw that out. Will Hill, who plays for the Ravens, he used to play for the Giants. He also was suspended for marijuana. He got a 6-game suspension here. He even used the secondhand smoke argument, the same one that Josh Gordon is. Not only did the NFL say, too bad, whatever's in your body is your fault, and that's your job to control that, and he did not win his appeal, and he's suspended for 6 games. So take Josh Gordon out of the equation. There's another NFL player who's in 6 games because he failed a test for a minimal above the threshold marijuana test. So just take Josh Gordon out, and there's other players. So it's not like this is simply a Josh Gordon argument. But
that's a totally fair point. Yes, he has had his warnings. He was suspended last year, and 6 games sounds about right to me. But the bottom line is, and why this is really a hot issue, is that you just can't. You're never going to convince me, or hopefully anyone else, that Ray Rice's suspension and Josh Gordon's suspension shouldn't at least be equal. Whatever it is, you cannot tell me that Josh Gordon, however many drug tests he has failed, is 8 times more of a threat to the NFL and to society as a whole than Ray Rice is beating up his girlfriend. There's just no way you're going to convince me of that. At the very least, if it's a whole season, then Ray Rice should be suspended for a whole season. If it's 6 games for Josh Gordon, 6 games for whatever it is, they should at least be equal. I think there's a strong argument that says that Ray Rice should be the one facing a year-long suspension, but we'll let that lie. But yeah, that's the issue here. It's less about Gordon and what Gordon has done alone as what his punishment is compared to Ray Rice's.
And you know what? You and I both keep using the term a year. Let's really specify that. When you say, well, they should have equal punishments, Ray Rice misses 2 games, jumps right back. The game's on Thursday, game 2, Friday. He's allowed to go right back to practice and join the team. Josh Gordon's suspension is a minimum 1-year suspension, indefinitely imposed. He actually has to go through the process of writing a letter to Roger Goodell and asking the league for reinstatement. So he has to actually get allowed to rejoin the league, which is fine. But Ray Rice doesn't have to show anything, prove anything. He misses 2 games, 2 checks, jumps back and plays football.
Yeah. Similar to Ben Roethlisberger 4 or 5 years ago.
There you go.
Exact same thing. Like I cannot wrap my head around it, and no matter how much explanation you provide, unless something is done to address this, then yeah, you've got a problem. Not a problem just with me. I mean, you've got a problem with not that women are your target audience, but when you've got a problem with women, you've got a problem.
And if you think just because they're not the target audience that they don't have significant weight with advertisers and sponsors and broadcasters and all of that stuff, you're nuts. And that thing will, especially like this. I mean, it happens to be in Cleveland so it's more to us. But if this come Monday, if they're talking about Josh Gordon being indefinitely suspended over this, then what we're talking about now will just continue to stir up and get bigger. They're not going to run away from this. They can try, the NFL can try, but they won't. That's for sure. And I agree. Forget the fact that he's a Brown. Just they have to, and they will. I will say that. Like, I'm positive, whether it's on the players' union side or on the NFL side or both, this won't be unaddressed when they redo the collective bargaining agreement and all that. This will be a huge part of the next deal because the players are going to look right at you and say what you and I are saying now. How is this right? Like, how is this right? You know what I mean? Right. I'm curious to see.
Much more likely to have players run into Josh Gordon's troubles than you are Ray Rice's.
Exactly.
So
what about Greg Hardy?
Much larger concern to the Players Association.
If Josh Gordon is indefinitely suspended and needs to ask and hopefully be allowed back in the league, what happens to Greg Hardy, who was found guilty of beating that woman and throwing her? Remember the guns and all the salacious testimony that came out of that little thing. What kind of punishment is he going to deal with? What is he going to get from the league? Because that was a pretty. I mean, you listen. I read some of it on the air a couple weeks ago. You listen to the testimony that came out of that case. If I was the NFL, I wouldn't want that guy anywhere near my game for at least a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's a PR thing, too. I mean, maybe not in Baltimore, where they're used to their players winding up in jail. I mean, gosh, the face of their franchise, more than likely put a guy in the ground 15 years ago. So, not a big deal in Baltimore. In Cleveland, we're a little more uncomfortable with the idea of our players, beating the hell out of people. So, I mean, in Cleveland, that might just save Josh Gordon beat up his girlfriend instead of smoking marijuana. Yeah, I don't know that people would be really lining up to buy his jersey. I don't think that way. I think you've got an internal PR problem with your own fan base, not just with the general American populace.
And you know what? Speaking of that, you look at training camp the first couple of days, Browns fans are shaming Josh Gordon for his weed suspension, and Ravens fans are organizing stand up and applaud for Ray Rice, come on now.
Similar, and to me, that is the lasting image of the Roethlisberger suspension. That whole incident, as disgusting and horrible as it was, the image that lasts in my mind is him returning to the field in Game 5 against the Browns, if I remember
Heroes
correctly.
Welcome.
After his suspension, receiving a standing ovation at Heinz Field for having the courage to rape a woman and then go on with your life. Like, I don't understand what that was all about. But I mean, that's the image of that incident. So we're going to just embrace that, I suppose. But the NFL applauds guys who have the courage to stand up and go out into the world after assaulting someone much smaller and weaker than them. I don't know what the message is there.
I'll tell you, and I know he even clarified that he didn't mean it this way, but if you heard Coach Harbaugh the other day, he really ran the risk of getting soundbited saying something similar to what you just said when he talked about how proud they were of the way Ray Rice has handled things since the incident. I'm like, dude, I get it. He even clarified, we're not proud at all about what happened. That's despicable, but we're really proud of how courageous and how he's stepped up. And I'm like, courageous is when you throw yourself on a landmine so the guy next to you doesn't die in the middle of a war. What he's doing right now is keeping his ass out of jail and in the NFL. There is nothing proud or courageous or anything about Ray Rice.
And really, I think the big problem of this issue, at least in terms of NFL players or any celebrity in general, usually, is how often do we get to even see a picture, hear a quote, get a video clip of the women that are being assaulted? How often do we? So we don't even have a face in most cases. We don't think of these women as people. They are just a name and a story. We don't see what the picture of them looked like after Ray Rice beat her up. We don't see how emotionally affected the woman that Ben Roethlisberger took advantage of. We don't see the troubles that she had, whatever psychological damage she might have gone through. We don't see this. We don't see
or
the
still
flip side.
Is.
So we give a round of applause to these courageous players who are returning to the field to make us happy and make our Sundays pleasurable by helping our team win, and just totally ignoring the fact. It's like basically it's like having soldiers go off to war, but we don't want any mention of anyone actually dying. We don't want any pictures of dead bodies or coffins. We don't want to have anyone think that people actually die in a war. We want them to think it's a pep rally, and that's what this is. This is that mentality. We don't want anybody to think that there are actual victims in this, other than the players themselves, who unfortunately have to hold an awkward press conference and have to sit out and forfeit 2 paychecks. You know, that's the victim. They want them to be the victim, not the actual victims.
Exactly. NFL, big on getting their guys counseling, Roethlisberger and Ray Rice. I wonder if that woman that in the Roethlisberger's case, I wonder if the NFL got her counseling. I wonder if they even know where she is right now. Anybody. I dare anybody to say, hey, I know where she is. Her life could have fallen apart right now. It doesn't matter because Ben Roethlisberger's back to throwing touchdowns. You know, that's all that matters.
And that's all we remember. This is a blip on the scope a year from now. I mean, how many people even remember Ben Roethlisberger? Remember when Ben Roethlisberger got suspended for rape? Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that. But I remember the 2 Super Bowls he won, yes. I remember that. I don't remember so much that story. And it'll be the same with Ray Rice. Certainly the same with Ray Lewis. My God, nobody really remembers that.
But we joke about building statues. Literally, the NFL has built the Ray Lewis statue already, my man. Yeah. I mean, he's the preacher man of the NFL, man. He is the this is what you aspire to be. And I'm like, no, it's not. Man, you guys are sure good at covering up what really happened, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's O.J. Simpson. For as many people as are outraged over O.J. Simpson getting off, I mean, this is basically the exact same story, only this time Ray Lewis made the NFL money. He made Baltimore fans happy. He sold EA sports games. So I mean, there were too many people that were profiting off of him to be upset, and those people have the voice, and those people are the ones who control what we think about Ray Lewis. So there you go.
People don't even realize that and I know that this is, there's a lot of different testimony. Ray Lewis may have physically had his hands on the murder weapon. You know what I mean? Like, there was a whole lot that did not come out about that, man, but they don't tell you that, man. And it's not just them. I mean, I know even guys that, years ago you may have looked up to had things, although definitely different levels of egregiousness than this here, but you're not on anything that we haven't been on all week, man, as far as this. Like, the minute I heard that, I said, you've got to be kidding me. And we got a guy here trying to play some games, and I'm not justifying, again, what he did, but really? Come on. NFL's all screwed up with this whole, half the league. I swear, I think half the teams in the league have at least one guy missing a couple of games this year for a marijuana suspension in the offseason. I mean, that story popped up every other week in the offseason. Another guy, you know? Yeah. And, meanwhile, Ray Rice is walking past the potheads on his way to practice going, hey, guys.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. And it doesn't do much for the NFL's reputation as this sort of macho caveman, testosterone, just completely out of control sort of men's club. I don't know what you would call it, but it's like, oh, you beat up your woman? Yeah, that's a manly thing. That's cool. That's all right. Oh, you smoke weed? Oh, you're like a hippie? Oh, well, with that, we got to take care of. I mean, it's just so draconian, so 50 years ago. So it's just unbelievable, the dichotomy between these 2 suspensions and the 2 stories that are unfolding here. So, this is long from over. We'll see not only how these stories unfold, but what the impact is, what sort of precedent this sets.
Meanwhile, the fans and players in Washington and Denver on their way to the store are stopping and going, hey, you want me to pick anything up for you too? Because I'm grabbing some beers and some doobies for the weekend, man, you know?
Yes, that's the larger question, the larger story, absolutely.
You know it, my man. All right. Hey, where are you at on things in the first week of camp here with the Browns? Anything that's kind of intrigued you? Anything you've liked of what you've seen, or perhaps that you're cautioned about? Or
I don't really have a vibe for it. I got to say, I'm not excited about this camp. I mean, obviously all eyes are on Manziel and Hoyer, and I just sort of wincing and preparing for the worst. I don't see anything. I mean, other than that, if you let's say you take that away, which is the main story of camp, I don't think we really get a vibe on things, and at least until the exhibition games begin. Yeah. So we're a good week away from really kind of getting a litmus test and get an idea, a very, very, very vague idea, but at least some idea of what kind of team we have, what kind of hand we've been dealt. So, yeah, I mean, nobody's gotten hurt yet. That's great. Nobody's blown out their knee on the first play. We've seen that in years past. So, yeah, so far so good, I suppose.
I mean, I've been there. I've seen, and I'll take the quarterbacks out because I mean that's going to be a lot of whatever in different people's opinions. I will say that the defense